One, let me get myself to the screen. Thank you for joining us on another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and let's talk. This is the new episode, new addition to this platform we'll be doing from time to time, and it's called Off the Cuff, where there'll be a lot of news going on, and we may have our lives going on doing different things. And then if I get some free time in between, I'll jump in and just try to talk to you about some of the news and just try to make sense of a lot of it so that we can all uh, have a sound mind, because so many things are breaking, so many things are happening so quickly here in America and around the world. It's hard to take stock of it all, and it's hard to look at it in the proper perspective. So we're going to start doing these off the cuffs from time to time, just so that we can show our supporters that we're on it. Just give us a few minutes. If we get the time, we'll come right to you and we'll rock and roll with you. So let's go into the news real quick, okay? We know that there is a mass at school, right? Let's say about American society. While she's preaching freedom and national security to the entire world, at home there is mass shootings. I mean, it seems like every time you turn around, every week there's a mass shooting, or every month there's a mass shooting. Now, this says a lot about America, and it says a lot about American society, but more than anything, it says more about the republic and where it stands in today's society, in today's world. You see, as I often say on this platform, education, and the proper education, is what civilizes people. And when you have a proper education and you get it from a proper educational system, it produces doctors, lawyers, engineers, scientists, everything that is valuable and vital to progress, to make a society progress and to maintain that society. Now, when you start defunding and dumbing down the society, because a lot of people think that it is funny to dumb down the society so that so few can have so much while so many have so little, and they are dependent on the so few. Yeah, but there's a blowback effect of that. Every action has an equal or greater reaction. So when you start doing that and you start pushing this mantra in this line of thinking, you don't take to dumb down a society, is to dumb down your future, your present, and your future class of people, your future rulers, your future, like I said, engineers, everything. Like, in essence, you may get over a little bit, but at what cost? The cost is the degradation and the collapse of the republic. We are watching that in real time. America can fund wars nonstop. She can always find money for wars, and there's no problem. There's no fighting over the war agenda. I don't care how these two sides of the aisles fight at each other or fuss at each other when it comes to what they say funding the U.S. defense, which is not defense, it's offensive in mind. It's offensive in mind. They can always find an extra billion, an extra 100 billion, an extra 200 billions in appropriations to fund the war machine. But when you're talking about teachers' pay, they can't find it in their hearts. And this should be a national issue, not a state issue, because there should be a unified curriculum across the nation, right? The reason that the nation does not feel as bonded as it should is because there's no unified curriculum. I can teach this, I can teach that, and I can teach that. And when you go to another state, it's like a foreign land. Okay? So the defunding of America's educational system and the dumbing down of those lies at the base of the collapse of American society. the desensitization of the children from all of this madness that is like pervasive in society. We have ramifications of that. Let's see. I remember growing up, and I think cable had just started. I believe it was cable had just started in the 70s, I believe. And there were three basic channels: channel 3, channel 5, channel 10. And if you were so lucky, and I'll answer the chat in a second. Thank you all for joining me in the chat. I will get with you all in a second. But let me build to this point, and then we're gonna rock and roll, okay? But in the 70s, so I'm seeing they come up with cable, and you have the HBO, and you have just, I think it was maybe like 12 channels in all, or 15 channels in all, okay? They would not even play a movie that had a little bit of nudeness in it until after certain hours. They wouldn't do that. You couldn't even curse on television outside. And as a child, we thought that to say lie was a curse word. Today, the children are cursing out the parents. The with the StreamYard stuff, now they're talking about some things that really matter. All right. So StreamYard wants to start their games, okay? And maybe the other platform that we're streaming on may be a part of it. I don't know. But I do know that there's a concerted effort to disrupt this platform. But it is what it is. Now, as a child, I think it was after 8 or after 9, HBO would show things like that. But now you get that on regular TV. There was a show called My Three Sons, and my mom and I talk about this sometimes. When and I Love Lucy and other stuff, where the husband and the wife on television were in different beds. There were twin beds in the room of the parents because they didn't want to project this image to the children. All right, the sexual innuendo, but now it's all in your face. And if you don't accept it, society says that you're crazy. If you don't bring your children up worshiping name brands, if you don't bring your children up in the so-called tech age with all kinds of gadgets, you're out of touch with reality. And in reality, you see what goes on, all of these murders that go on. You'll see that they have a hint of social media behind it, where someone got in a disagreement on social media, they locked in the location, found him, and killed him. This is what America does globally. These are just coming home the rules. Jumping on your back, but I'm glad you put that in the chat. Think about the desensitization, excuse me, of violence. Violence is in every movie, almost. Nudeness is in every movie. The disrespect for women are in every movie, every show. And when we look at that, how can you build a base of progressive society on that when vulgarity is the rule of the day? When vulgar, if you want to do that in behind your closed doors. Why do you have to force that down my throat? Why do you have to put that on me? And when I reject this stuff, I'm the bad guy. See, this shows you just how far society has fallen. The desensitization of the music. Everybody is a hoe and a bee and a slut and a this, and it's all about materialization. The same with America. Look at America's foreign policy. The disregard of human life for the sake of maintaining dollar hegemony. The disregard and the disrespect for people and their privacy, as America recognizes no one borders if the dollar is in jeopardy, if her policies just force and uproot the government, regardless of the cost of life or whatever. And we see that in the urban and the suburban communities now with the uptick of violence. This is domestic violence mirroring the global violence that America is perpetrating around the globe. Every action, again, will receive an equal or greater reaction. These are the laws of science. And once America's leaders started recognizing that even though you may be inebriated on what America used to be and the power and the riches that she used to have, the sun is set on that, and you are not an exception to the rules that lie at the base of the foundation of God's creation, which is the universe. You can't nullify the laws of science just because you want to believe that you're better than everybody else. There are consequences that come along with policy moves. You know, they teach you in life, there's consequences to your action. If you get in trouble with the law and you go before the judge and you, oh, I'm sorry for this and I'm sorry for that, and the judge will tell you, you may be sorry, but there are consequences for your actions, whether you did them knowingly or in ignorance. There are still consequences that must come back to you for your actions that were against the law. But let's realize they are children, adults, because in politics, they're childish, whether they're sick or whether they're foreign, they're childish politics. I can't rule, I'm going to kill everybody. In somebody's mind to say, hey, I built the nuclear weapon. Well, I'm gonna build 1,000 of them, and 1,000 of them is enough to kill everybody. Well, you know what? That's not even enough for me. I'm gonna be able to build up enough weapons to kill everybody 30 times over. So they don't stop and say, well, if I kill everybody and I destroy the planet and it is uninhabitable anymore, then where the hell do I go? Where do I go? Even if I were to be victorious in this mad and insane doctrine, how will I provide food for future generations? How will we be self-sustaining? How will we be able to breathe oxygen? Because I don't care how much you prepare to go to another planet. You're from this planet, and the very essence of you is from this planet. And God did not create the planets in such a way where you can destroy this one and go to that one. That's why he put you here. But they are childish in their thinking. I'm going to kill everybody. But while I'm thinking about killing everybody, I'm going to explore for life. Now, let us talk for a minute, because we're talking about this on this off the cuff news thing. And I like to raise thought. Be thought provoking. Now, talk their psyche. Well, I'm going to share out if I can't rule. And their children can't live. They may run out of air in their underground bunkers, and when the food runs out, boom, everything is over. So you mean to tell me that you are that hell bent on maintaining power that you're willing to kill everybody and even destroy the planet that has not done anything to you? That's the mind of a psychopath and a sociopath, self-centered, that everything must revolve around me. For those of you who are listening to me, you know, if you have children, at one point in time, if you have more than one, the one that was first sometimes can't take it at first when the second one comes, because everything revolved around them and they have to adjust to it, right? They have to adjust to the second or the third child, because now they have to realize that everything in the family does not revolve around them. Well, this is what happens with American politicians. They still can't seem to get it in their head that everything does not revolve around America and what America wants and what America sees and what America thinks and how America tries to dictate. But still, they are so childish in their mental capacity that they are willing to kill all life on the planet to push through a policy. If that is not, and they accurately name their doctrine, man, isn't that an apt title? Mutually assured destruction. They are things are insane. You have to be insane to say, if I can't rule, I'm gonna kill everybody. And look at the policies. See, my mom, and I brought this up on a show that I was a guest on today, and I want to thank Elena for inviting me on her show today. We really had a good time, and it was well over 2 hours. We really had a good time chopping it up. And I know I rambled a little bit, but I have so much on my chest that I have to get off because there's so many lives that are at stake. So when we think about it, I want you to think about this just for a minute, just thought provoking. Think about how much of a lunatic or berserker, and look up those words, lunatic and berserker. Think of how much of a lunatic and a berserker one must be to have no regard for the entire planet. If I can't rule, I'm prepared to kill everybody. And as I said before, and I was talking about this and I got sidetracked. My mom used to always say this, and my oldest sister would always say this when I was in high school. She would tell me this too. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. Now, through America's foreign and domestic policies, who has the empire to be arrogant, egotistical, bloodthirsty, make that everybody wanted how to do it, but she exempts herself from those very same dictates and demands. There's no other way to look at it. We can't sugarcoat this anymore. All right. I'm going to go to the chat. Let me start putting some of this stuff up because I know people have things to say, and I see in the chat. Let's see. Let me go to the chat because some of these things we don't take the time out to think about. America does not realize, I should realize, that her policies are coming back to haunt her. You can't do this in perpetuity and not think that something is coming back. It has to come back, or else it nullifies all the laws in creation. All right, let's see. Midnight Caller says, let's go scrolling up a little bit. It says, is the U.S. collapsing? Yes, indeed. We're watching this, as I said at the beginning of the show. One of the main things people look at, well, I didn't say this, but I'm gonna get to it. One of the main things people look at when they look at America and they use as a barometer is her economy. Well, I believe, and most scientists will agree with me, to judge or measure how far it has fallen or is falling, one takes a look at the educational system. Because the educational system is the base of any prudent, progressive, and successive and civilized society. When you don't have the proper education, or you defund the proper education and the educational system, and you put that on the back burner, what you are doing is compromising future leaders, architects, scientists, inventors, stewards of the children's lives. You are putting them on the back burner. So what you're doing is stunning the growth of your civilization. So if we look at the measurement of society by the educational system, what just happened in the educational system? And what do we see happening in America? It seems like weekly. Shootings at the educational system, right? At some school or near some school, at some church near some church, or some college near some college, right? As a matter of fact, as we talk about this, there was something I had just seen before the show started. All right, let's see. Let me see if it's still here, because I know the news moves real fast. Here it is, right here. Okay. So we talk about the shootings. But let's look at this. There's an article out, and it says, strike by teachers, staff shuts down second largest school district in the U.S. Is that not a sign of how America is? As the education system is so public. Not right. So look, it says school workers in the U.S. city of Los Angeles have launched a 3-day strike to demand pay rises, supposedly pay raises, and better working conditions shutting down classes in the nation's second largest school district. Now, let's stop right there. What's the matter with the teachers asking for better pay? I want you to understand this, because once you look at this in depthly, you'll see just how far society has fallen. The teachers are the stewards and the fashioners of the brains and the ideals and the hopes of future generations. They mold them, right? They give them encouragement, or they stunt their growth. Is that not right? Now, why is it that America puts more emphasis on people who can put a ball through a hoop and is willing to give them $200 million to dribble a basketball up and down the court, or to give them $40 million to throw a pigskin from one end of a field to another end, or give these people $300 million to take a stick and a ball and hit it across a field? But the people who are the fashioners of future leaders, politicians, scientists, um, so you tell me, these barometers, is America collapsing? When you can put emphasis on sports, and they call it America's pastimes, right? But what about the main times? Why do the people who are involved in the building of the schools, the janitors who sweep and clean the schools, the custodians who feed the children, and the teachers who nurture their mental capacity, are left in the dust while people shoot balls through hoops, throw balls down the fields, hit balls with bats, and they get life-changing money for doing that? That is upwards in 100 million, 200 million, $300 million. And the stewards of future generations, the teachers, have to get food stamps, energy aid, and housing aid to maintain their livelihood. If that is not one of the greatest signs of collapse, you tell me what is. I'm listening. You tell me what is. To hell with looking at the wars. Look at what's going on here. There's a war being fought right here for the livelihood of the people. And most people are not recognizing this. The feudalism that is happening in America, the fascism, which is, I mean, it's right in your face. The people, if the people can't have a place to stay, if the people can't provide for their families, and when the soldiers come home, now you know the big talk in all of the political circles, we support our troops, we support our armed forces, right? And yet, I was looking at an article by the highest ranking officer in the Marines, and he said he was not for a massive pay raise for Marines. Their pay raise should be the honor in being a Marine. That's what he said. What about the family? The family can't eat being a Marine. The family can't buy a house being a Marine. The family cannot sustain themselves being a Marine in years after no longer being a Marine. So on one end, they talk, we support the troops. And then when you take the troops who are here, who are suffering from all kinds of mental disabilities for the wars that have been persecuted by these people who are standing in Washington, who never fired a shot one day in their lives. They get the worst health care. They're suffering some of the worst treatment, right? And they're forgotten. And if you look on the streets of America, you see a whole host of them will work for food, hungry. Please help, anything help. So we support the troops as long as they're fighting these illegal, unjust wars around the world. But when they come back home and ask you to really support them, you turn a deaf ear, a blind eye. You won't even acknowledge their pain or their plight or their suffering. And they're left to wander in the streets. And some of them suffering from mental illness from the wars and from the abuse in the wars, or from their time in the military. Go to alcoholism, drugs and all of these things, and you telling me that you support the troops, these are signs of a declining empire. These are signs of a collapsing republic. Make no mistakes about it. Now let's go back into, I see Midnight Caller says, if the U.S. collapse, the repercussions will be historic. It's not no if in it. This is a mathematical certainty. As Gerald Salente, I believe it was Gerald Salente. I know Mr. Doom, Boom and Gloom said it, and I know Peter Schiff has said it, and I know that Gregory Mannarino has said it, and it's a few other people that I've talked with have said it, and I have been saying it and trumpeting this for over a decade. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The collapse is underway. There's no if she collapses. She's collapsing. We're looking at it in real time. All one has to do is use the same economic barometers that you used 20 years ago and compare them to today. Now, as I said on Elena's show earlier today, and we were talking about the food prices, it wasn't 10 years ago. You can today, 16 to $18 for 18 eggs. Sometimes they don't even have it. Some of the staple foods that you used to take for granted, you have to go to 3-4 different stores to get them because the store over here doesn't have it. The store over there doesn't have it. Why? Because there is a transportation problem. There is a shipping problem. There is a currency problem, right? And all of that is being borne out on the shelves. All of that is being borne out through this secret tax that the government continues to put on you. What tax am I talking about? Inflation. Inflation is a hidden tax because it takes your money and shrinks its value. It takes your money, and I remember the Dollar Tree to show you how bad things are getting. I remember the Dollar Tree made one of the greatest boasts of any store or chain of stores, said that they would never raise their prices over $1, right? What are the prices today when you go in Dollar Tree? $1.25, right? Now, that may seem insignificant to you, but that is a 25% raise. That's inflation by 25%. That's a rise in inflation, whether you know this or not. Now, why is that so important? Because it is also a product that is $1.25. Now, for that. And what I'm telling you is that this thing, they want you to believe that everything will be all right and everything is going to bounce back. It's not going to happen like that. How could it when America's debt, her public debt, has exploded? Her private debt is unheard of. Student debt is something else. And that's another thing I want to talk about real quick while I'm on the student debt, okay? Let's look at this. So the American government allows you to get out of debt from everything except two things. If you file bankruptcy, you can wipe away most debts, but two you cannot. That is child support or alimony or something like that, right? And student debt. Now, why would you burden the people like that? If the people are in bankruptcy, and I'm talking about the average person, I'm not talking about the people that try to cheat and escape the law. And you'll get those people that cheat and escape the law that goes through, that's with anything. But let's talk about what's pervasive. If the people have been forced into bankruptcy, what does that tell you? That they can't afford any of it. They can't pay for any of it. So why are those two left on their record if they can pay for other stuff? Make think about this. Down unreal and unhelpful degree that you can't, in most areas, you can't apply those degrees to real life. And they have been burdened with unheard of debt that they can't come up from under. They can't file bankruptcy. So guess what happens? If they do get a job in their field, if they're lucky to get a job in their field, it may take them 10, 20, 30 years to pay off or pay on a huge portion of their debt. So what you're doing is you're saddling the future leaders, the future scientists and politicians, engineers, and teachers with unpayable debt in their first 10, 15 years of their life outside of school. They can't focus on helping to make the nation great or progressive. They have to focus on how can I help pay off some of this massive debt on my back. This does not bode well for a republic. These are things that nobody wants to talk about. No alternative media is talking about it. No mainstream media is talking about it because it's too unpalatable for most of them. Because it may offend some people that are close to them. That's why a lot of these guys don't invite me to their circles. Because I call it if you all have ever seen the TV series called Poker Face, I advise you to watch that. Poker Face. I'm the male version of Poker Face. And a lot of people, when you have a lie detector built into you, and you can tell when people are trying to give you the shaft, but you speak up about it, a lot of people can't take that. A lot of people can't take that because you burst their bubble. You know, they're living in this bubble and you burst that bubble. Okay. So I'm the male Poker Face. Look it up. It's on Peacock. It's a real good series. I'm the male version of Poker Face. But again, let's go to something. Another comment, and I'm not posting the comments at this moment. I'm trying to look through and see. Let's see. All right, here we go. Right here. Let's play this. The U.S. will not stand a chance in a multipolar world. You will find yourselves isolated on a continent far away from the rest of the world. Now, it's something that you said that because on the show I was on earlier today, I brought this up. What gave America a dominance over everyone after World War II is because she was barely hit by the war on the homeland. And she came out with this huge manufacturing and industrial power. Okay. Not only that, but now on top of that, all of the other nations were destroyed or nearly destroyed or under massive debt. So they had to find funding somewhere, and guess who gave them funding? The U.S. But it wasn't free. It was, I'll give you this, but you're going to have to sacrifice your sovereignty. I need a military base over there. I need a logistics center over there. I need to be able to have a veto on certain things you do. And if you're down on your knees and you're begging and somebody say, I'll give you this apartment, listen, and I'll help you out a little bit. But I got to have a say in certain things that go on in there. And it's freezing outside. Your best option at the time, you took the deal and you went in and moved into the apartment, right? That's the same thing what happened to the nations after World War II. They took the deal with the U.S. And the U.S. did not do right. Look, it says the U.S. will not stand a chance. This is what I'm getting at right here. Okay, so she had the industrial and manufacturing, and what helped her the most is the dollar was the world reserve, became the world reserve currency. So now she had the economic clout behind, and with the dollar being the world's reserve currency, she was able to manipulate other people's foreign and domestic policies because she could sanction or she could use the Fed and say raise interest rates and cause a collapse over here, or lower interest rate and cause a massive wipeout of wealth or something like that, vice versa, or whatever, right? She was control nations, and also one of the main luxuries and benefits of having the world reserve currency was that she was able to live outside her means. She was able to export inflation. to other nations. Therefore, at home, she got the best of both worlds, lower prices, and she was able also to control certain governments abroad. And she always talked about a level playing field. But every time the playing field gets level, she sanctions a nation because she feels threatened that they may take the lead. Why is America screaming about China? She says we must watch TikTok. We must ban TikTok the same way they did Huawei, right? The phone company that was huge, right? Why I believe Huawei had overtaken Samsung, the South Korean tech giant. And what America did as he got that big, America went to war to break the back of Huawei so that they was going to send a message to China. Stay in line or we'll do this with other companies that you have. So as they start losing their edge over everything with the Chinese supercomputer beats the US supercomputer, right? The Chinese currency reserves way and far outmatches the US currency reserve. The Chinese manufacturing capacity beats the US manufacturing capacity. The Chinese have become the US globe. America is destroyer of product on the globe. She destroyed any nation on the planet. So as China ascended economically, America became more and more worried. And we can tell this by what? Her actions. How is that? Russia, being the largest nuclear power on the planet Earth. Let me say that again. Russia, not the United States, Russia, being the largest nuclear power on planet Earth. America sees China as her greatest pressing threat. Why is that? Well, let's call an ace and a spade. China is rising. Her military is on par, and in some areas have surpassed the United States. Her technology has caught up to, and in some areas have surpassed the United States. Her political clout is catching up to, and in some areas have surpassed the United States. Her trade has caught up to and surpassed the United States, right? And now the tech giants, think about this, all of the great tech giants, Google, Twitter, Instagram, all of these tech giants enjoyed a tremendous advantage over global companies until TikTok arrived. And TikTok being a non-Western, non-white, quote unquote, tech that not Google, just rivaled Twitter, not rivaled Facebook, but became the largest social media platform on the planet, becomes a threat to the United States. Right? And I don't know much about, I thought it was Talk. Right? My children told me about the TikTok thing. You know, I didn't know anything about TikTok. So, and they still make jokes about it. Say, Dad, you remember when you said, what's that platform? You know, the one that's talking. I didn't know what it was. But after studying it, I realized that it became a threat to the United States, and it's a national security threat. Why? Because it's owned by a non-Western, non-white, non-US controlled entity. The United States says, well, TikTok can spy. Well, we have proof that Facebook spies. We have proof that Twitter spies. We have proof that the Instagram is a data mining just like Facebook. We have proof of these things. But we have allegations on TikTok. And so the allegations supersede the proof, and the allegations make TikTok a pressing threat, while Facebook, Google, Instagram, and Twitter are smiled at and just ignore it. That is racist, that is fascist, that is exceptionalist, right? And that is born out of arrogance. That's what it is. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but it talking doesn't even scare. But hey, I felt I wanted to talk to you all and just inform you about some of the things that are going on. Now, let's go. Okay, hold on one second, everyone. Rashid told me to send him this this invite. Hold on one second, because he's feeling a little bit better, I guess. Let me see. Give me 1 second, everybody. Here's the link. All right, we have everyone. Hold on. I won't get off. I promise you I won't get off topic. All righty. I have to put the stream code in manually because I don't feel like going through all that on the computer. So give me a second. NM7. Hold on 1 second. I think that's the right one. All right, we'll see if that's the right one. Anyway, but again, let's go to something that says you said in the second part of that statement, you said the rest of the world. That's in the process right now. I want you to think of the madness and the pipe, because the sheer lunacy and the insanity of the policies of those who make and dictate policies in America. China, again, let's go back to China. China is the largest manufacturer in the world. 93% of all goods come on the shelves in America come from China or an affiliate of China. Okay. China holds 1.2, 1.3 trillion of US debt. I think it has a total of 3 trillion dollars in treasuries that it holds. It has the largest treasury reserve in the world. We have, I think, Gregory Manarino, Jim Rogers. We have Mr. Boom, Doom, and Gloom. We have Gerald Celente. We have Peter Schiff. And all of them are saying that China has no less than 30 to 40,000 tons of gold that they don't even talk about. And it is to hedge against whether if the United States and China go against each other and the U.S. tries to seize China's treasury assets and refuse to redeem them, then China could offset that with the gold and silver reserves that they maintain that are off book. Okay. Now, let's get to something. China is the largest investor in the United States. She's the largest trading partner with the United States. Right? And the goods, Target, Walmart, and all of these stores combined. Now, I want you to think about this, okay? If I was responsible for 93% of all food that you and your family ate, and I was responsible for funding you to give a good life to your family and pay your bills, and I'm the one coming into your house just on your word and refurbishing your home that I helped buy for you now, and I pay your car payment, and I pay your light bill, and I give you money for gas and give you money for your children's tuition, then you turn around and try to set the world against me. You try to wage economic war against me, a disinformation war against me, and then you openly come out and say, we believe that we're going to war with him in 2 or 3 years. What do you think that, how do you think that I would react to that? Huh? Do you think I'll just say, oh, let's just all get along? Oh, that's no problem. I think they're just overreacting and they'll come to their senses. No, I'm going to hit you where it hurts at. I'm going to show you not to bite the hand that feeds you. And when we do face each other, I'm going to bring it like never before to put a spanking on you that you've never experienced. Like, so rational people, and we see that it's a rational government. They have a rational government. And the United States leaders are irrational. What do you think is going to happen when they do finally face off? Do you think China is going to, in the middle of a war that the United States is stoking to try to maintain her sway? And she openly said to maintain her #1 spot in Asia. Do you believe that China will still deliver the contents on those ships to the United States? Hmm? And if she does not continue to deliver those contents that you get on your store shelves, 93% now, and she supplies the United States with motherboards for her computers, boots for her soldiers, uniform for her soldiers, right? Um, chips for her missiles and her warplanes and everything. You engage in war with me, guess what happens? All of it stops. And then I'm going to flood the market with your treasuries, right? So now I've started Union Pay. So I don't need your Visa. I don't need your SWIFT system. And there's a whole host of nations that are now on board with me through Union Pay and Mir. And there are a whole host of nations that are using the yuan and who are now about to use the yuan and who are entering into an agreement, whether it be through BRICS Plus Bank or the BRICS Bank or even Asian Chinese Union or through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, all with China involved. This means that America becomes isolated. This means that the shelves become empty within a week. This means that the trucking companies that are used to trucking the goods from the ports and the trains that are used to hauling the heavy stuff over the railways come to a screeching halt. That means massive unemployment from the stores, from the shipping, from the trucking, from the trains. That means these people who are unemployed become desperate because they can't pay their rent, their mortgage, their bills. They can't feed their family. While America continues to persecute and prosecute wars abroad, that means that now when the bills come due for the loans made to the trucking companies, the trains, and the shipping companies, they have no funds to pay back the banks that loaned the money to them to do the things that they did to keep afloat, which means that now you have triggered a domino effect of banks after bank after bank after bank after bank collapsing, which means that America has taken a gun, playing Russian roulette, no pun intended, and loaded all 6 chambers, put it to her head, and pulled she okay. Now let's go to the chat again. Let's see. It says the Chinese has used more concrete in the last 3 years than the U.S. has done in her entire history. Let me tell you something. There was a report one time that China put up 4 mega hospitals in 4 days. Mega hospitals. I'm talking about huge, look like military bases in 4 days. They've been working on this hospital in the city I'm from for the last 5 years, 6 years. 1 hospital. How can you match that? See, when the playing field is even and you have no advantage through your currency or through your economy, right? Or through these levels of power that the West like to maintain through the IMF, the UN, the World Bank, and is on a level playing field, it is hard for 360 million people to outdo 1.5 billion. Isn't that something? That's a reality that America don't want to tell you. And when we look at China, China has had the largest they lifted 800 million people out of poverty into the middle class in a time of 10 to 15 years. China did that. 850 million people. They just did it. So 850 million people is roughly a little bit more, I believe, than the entire population of Europe. China lifted that out of poverty. And now Europe is putting its people in poverty by following along with the US with these irrational, insane, unsound, and crazy policies, right? I'm going to bite, since I bit my ear off, I had the dog bite my ear off. This next time I'm going to cut my nose off and my lips off and my tongue out just to spite my face. This is what they're doing. And nobody's saying it to them. But I give it to you real. And I tell you these things. I know people don't like to hear it, right? Because I'm passionate about the truth. That does not mean that I'm without flaw. I have plenty of flaws. But when it comes to this stuff here, I'm passionate about it because there's so many people's lives that are at stake here. You can't play with people's lives like you're playing a video game. You can't play with people's lives. You're playing with one of those board games. If that's up, make them lose their lives, you can never get it back. You can always go back to the beginning on a video game or start on one of those board games. But if you mess the person's life up or their family's lives up, there's a good chance that you can never get it back. And if they die, you can never get it back. So there's too much at stake here. And everybody needs to be informed about this stuff. And everybody needs to inform the so-called informers about their duty to inform people straight up. Because a lot of them only tell you what they want you to hear, and they gain hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They make a lot of money off of you, right? And then they continue to string you along. They tell you this over here. They tell you 80% of what you want to hear, 10 or 20% to steer you in this direction to keep you with that carrot, following that carrot. So you hopefully you think one day this will happen and I'll get the carrot. This is the same trick that the government uses. This is the same trick that the guy on the street uses when he does the 3-card money and when he does the 3 cups and all that stuff like that. That's the same trick. They're just doing it now on YouTube. They're doing it on YouTube. Let's go to something else. Let's go to another comment that says, oh, yeah, that's a good point there. That's a good point there. Midnight Caller. That is an excellent point. That is an excellent point. It said, he said, or she says, in Chinese term, it's supposed to be all. Turn all the inducing military equipment. Now, think about this. Russia has the legacy military industrial complex from the Soviet Union, right? And Russia has partially turned on its military industrial complex to produce weapons. Not only is Russia outproducing Ukraine, but Russia is outproducing the whole of the Western world. And they have not even ramped up the entire military machine. Now, that says something. This goes, I'm going to get to China in a second, but think about that. Vladimir Putin made a statement. He says, we have not begun fighting yet. He was letting them know, look, this is the intro. If you continue to antagonize us and continue to do so, then when we turn it up, we're going to turn it up on you. Now, think about this. If that is the case with Russia, and Colonel Douglas McGregor, in his estimation, has openly stated that the Chinese industrial base is at least twice the size of what America's was at the height of her glory after coming out of World War II. Think about that in terms of America trying to outproduce China. That would be like Europe trying to outproduce America after World War II when Europe was in ruins. And China has not even really Xi Jinping or someone, oh no, but the editor of Global Times brought up this very scenario, and he said And just if you can't match Russia's military output, then how in the world can you even think that you're going to match our output? There was a report stating that China produces more warships. This is a U.S. report. That China produces more more warships. And this does not include the warships that she produces, the submarines that she produces, and all of that stuff for other nations. I'm talking about just for the Chinese. China produces more warships in a 3-month span than the United States and NATO does in 3 years. That's a mic drop there. I mean, that's a mic drop. And how can you go to war with your greatest lender and investor, your greatest trade partner, and the manufacturer of the world, and you have no manufacturing base? When your ships are, when your warplanes are shot out there, who's gonna make some more? When your ships are sunk, tell me who's gonna make some more? When your submarines are sunk, when your aircraft carrier is sunk, who's gonna make some more? China planes are shot out the air. About 3 of them up there, or before the sun sets again, you'll see more out there. When the submarines are sunk, you'll see them back out there. The manufacturing capacity of China in America, or China against the West, is night and day. And these are realities that the Western leaders refuse to openly discuss and tell you all. They do all of these special reports and all of this stuff, hoping that you don't get whiff of it, or you are too dumb or too lazy to hold and read. They know that reading is fundamental, but they also know that they've dumbed down the masses, and they don't want you to read. I see you, Rashid. I'll bring you in just a second. And they don't want you to read, because if you read and you start to understand, their policies have to change, because their power diminishes, because they no longer have zombies. They no longer have zombies. They have real people with real thought and real issues and real concerns that they have to deal with in a real-time manner, or face real consequences. That's reality. Let me bring Rashid in and let him pick up on this situation. Rashid, how you doing today? And before you answer that,
I think so.
Turn down the background noise.
Now, don't forget, Grandpa, you're not going to let him upset you.
You hear me?
You promised.
Don't you worry about me, Dennis.
You know somebody has to.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Let me see. Your mic. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's low. Let me
you?
see if I can get it up.
Okay. Okay.
Give me a few minutes.
Okay. Well, I'll finish talking. Let's go to and I'll come back to Midnight Caller's point on this, and I'll let Rashid address it also. Let's see. Let's see what it said.
Okay, what about now?
It says, okay, I hear you very well. Now check this out. Okay, before I go to the next point, I want you also to address that comment up there. I think it's a good comment. You see it? You see the comment?
No.
On the screen, the Midnight Caller. Midnight Caller, right up on the screen. Imagine what happens when the Chinese turn all those factories into producing military equipment. And he put that out there in light of America trying to make war with China.
Well, the people in America are insane. You know, they see what's coming, and if the leadership are freaking out. What does Alex Jones say? A lot of them are telling him to get out of the country, get out of the country. because it's going to go bad. Well, that's what it is. They're just absolutely insane. You can't make war with the world. But she thinks that everybody's her servant and everybody should do what she says. And it just shows you that the madness, that's what's happening with the American leadership. They've gone totally insane.
Yeah. Now, let me go to the next comment, and I'll let you address it first since you just joined the chat. I'll let you address this, and then I'll come in after you. But here's the next comment. Do you see it?
Well, once again, America's the leadership has gone mad, man. Like I said before, you know, what happened to the German people is going to go happen to the American people. Yeah. America never thinks that, see, she's under the illusion that nobody can strike her homeland. But people can strike her homeland. And she's mad. That's all right. That is. Leadership is completely mad.
Okay. All right. Also, coming in the chat as a apology. I like for the chat to be jumping in. I like for us to talk with each other. I wanted to go to something. I think now. Let me play a clip for you all while you're here. I want you all to listen to this. This is what's driving America mad. Okay. Let's go to it. Let's see if they will allow this. Listen to this.
Voices of concern over the looming end to America's global financial dominance are growing louder in the U.S., with news channels, usually polar end of the political divide, in a rare show of unity in their anxiety about a reckoning like never before.
The Fed has solved a series of financial crises by massively expanding its balance sheet, almost 12-fold. This only works because of the dollar's unique status. If that were to wane, America will face a reckoning like none before.
Also, it's been backed up by the strength and economic power of the United States and the fact that oil has always been traded in dollars. If that were to end, that would mean the end of the U.S. dollar.
The wave of panic is beginning to grip politicians, too. U.S. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene warned that if the dollar falls, Americans will face economic problems never before seen in their history.
I warned the dollar would be replaced with yuan a year ago when Washington decided to wage a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine, and now it's happening. The war against Ukraine war is going to plunge Americans into economic woes never seen before in our entire history if the dollar falls. They will be to blame and America will never recover.
Earlier, my colleague Nikki Aaron spoke to a panel of guests about the consequences of the fall of America's global financial dominance.
Well, the sanctions gave it a big boost forward. I think the idea was already in the heads of certain leaders because of the buildup in American debt to the rest of the world due to the large American trade deficit. We can see the two things working: the abuse of the dollar as the world reserve currency and the continuing American trade deficits.
Xi Jinping was recently in Moscow for a meeting with the Russian leader. They talked extensively about strengthening the economic ties between China and Russia. How much of a big deal is this development for the global economy?
I think it is a historic moment. Some of us have been pointing out that with the illegal seizure of foreign exchange reserves of sovereign nations within the dollar system, that was a big warning to other sovereign nations to be careful and not keep their precious wealth stored up through exports and hard-earned, work in US dollars. And that, of course, ultimately what is likely to damage the US dollar, but you need an alternative. And that's where the US for a long time has felt quite confident. There is no alternative. The world currency is the US dollar. Well, you can create alternatives. And of course, that's what a lot of countries have done, initially starting with a core group of countries. And you've mentioned Russia, China. Of course, that cooperation is crucial. But there is, the bigger group, the BRICS countries, and more countries are joining the BRICS countries. The alternatives are now becoming very concrete and pragmatic.
To what extent do you think the actions of the US and some of its allies, like sanctions, for example, have actually contributed to this global de-dollarization?
We have to be very clear that the US has shot itself in the foot. It has created a situation where countries are in revulsion to American foreign policy and want to get as far away as possible from the US. Strictly from a business point of view, like, why would you want to invest in the US? And when I say invest, I mean, like, work with the American currency or buy American treasuries. Why? Because that is an investment in the US economy. Why would you want to do it? It's a bad investment. Again, the US is a very destructive geopolitical actor, and it's a very carefree, wanton, licentious financial actor. So it's actually a horrible bet, the US. We see that the US is unrepentant. Absolutely unrepentant. I had this hope, this naive hope, that after we pulled out of Afghanistan, that maybe we're going to be finally a constructive actor in the international arena. And then, of course, what do? They start the war in Ukraine. The U.S. is hopeless. I'm sad, very sorry to say that, but pretty much a hopeless case. And I welcome the rise of new blocs across the globe. That would be great for the global economy.
I know it wasn't me. I didn't hit any button, so I know it wasn't me. But I want to talk to you for a minute for the audience, and I want you to engage. But I want to read a few things. We just talked about the dollar. A lot of people don't know this is why America is swinging wild, and that she's the destroyer of nations. She is trying to maintain her dollar as the world's reserve currency. Without this privilege, America becomes no longer exceptional, and she knows that. So I want to read just a few things. So you guys be patient with me. I'm going to jump from spot to spot. I want to read and show you just how tenuous the situation and precarious America's standing is with her dollar globally. Okay, so an article came out on the 23rd of this month, and it was titled "Yuan Settlements to Curtail West Influence Boost Russia African." And I'm recently Chinese President Xi Jinping, Russian Moscow supports the idea of using the yuan Africa and America, stressing that national currencies will further replace the U.S. dollar in international trade. That's the first paragraph of that article. Now let's go to something else. In another article that was published on the 21st, I believe, of this month, President Xi arrives in Moscow. Listen to this. Saudi and Chinese banks cooperate in yuan. Now listen, America was spending her money left and right, right? You remember America used to be on the gold standard. The world was on the gold standard. And as Rashid and I often say, and we laugh about it, that she was spending, and the French general who had became the leader and president of the country, de Gaulle, was watching the way America was opening up the money supply. And de Gaulle was talking to Nixon, and he was like, hey, you need to slow your horses a little bit. You're spending more money than you have in gold reserves. And then Nixon, tricky dick, he says, America's money is as good as gold. And de Gaulle said, well, then give me gold. And he demanded the U.S. take their treasuries and pay France in gold. This is what started other nations seeing that, and they were Nixon and took maintain currency. Deal with Arabia, Saudi, the petrodollar. And now Arabia sees that they're on a sinking ship and they are striking a deal with China to sell China, who is one of their largest buyers of their oil, to sell it to them,
The
bypassing the
largest
dollar,
buyer.
using the yuan. So in this thing, it says, and then I'll let Rashid comment. I'm just trying to get a couple headlines off a few different articles. Chinese President Xi Jinping has touched down in Moscow as Paris erupts in flaming protests, and the Saudi National Bank achieves its first loan in a Chinese currency. I'm going to say that again. Chinese President Xi Jinping has touched down in Moscow as Paris erupts in flaming protests, and the Saudi National Bank achieves its first loan in a Chinese currency. Isn't that something major? That is absolutely major, Rashid. Go ahead and talk.
Where is all of the international condemnation of the French, all of them protesters? Didn't they call out for the people to be overthrown in Iran because they had all them protesting? Didn't they call out for the protesters in Libya and all around? Anytime anybody protests, the empire is there, Johnny on the spot, talking about they're illegitimate and they should be removed. What about your people in France? I don't see one word in any of the Western media talking about overthrow the matron on the French president. Not one word. And for like we said before, for the Saudis to get the cojones to turn away from the American dollar, you know the empire is falling. If the American, if the Saudis ever dreamed of doing something against America, you better wake up and apologize. That's just something that just don't happen. You see an economic tidal wave that's taking place where the American empire is falling. And the only one that don't see it is the poor ignorant people in America. They think that they're going to be around forever and a day. What you put on an article where the guy of, what was it, one of those African countries saying a few days American dollar ain't going to be worth nothing. That's coming.
There's a few of them. A few of them have said it.
There's a few of them that saying that. It's coming. And like I said, the only one that don't see this is the people here who think that our money is the world's money. Well, that ain't so. If the world stop accepting your money and where they run around holler about the world is against you. Well, the Western world may be against you, but the rest of the world is against the American world, the Western world. And you see what's coming. She is going to collapse without any commodities, gold, or anything of tangible value. Your money is worthless. We keep saying this over and over and over again. And the rest of the world just don't see. I mean, the rest of the world sees it, but the poor, blind, deaf, and dumb people of America is clueless of what's taking place. Mm-hmm. Once again, if the American dollar is not worth anything, then those big, huge ships that come from the east will stop. If they stop, you got no goods to be sold into the stores. You see with the COVID, the dribbling of this coming down, where you had tissue paper and eggs and all of, you start having gaps in the supply chain. And when China, that's the main part, when China stops sending goods,
it's a wrap. Yeah, it's a wrap. Look, and check this. On to that point, here's another article that was published on the 26th of January. And it says, Russia going to trade and single currency may facilitate transactions between Russia and Africa in the quest for a multipolar world in which countries are free to implement the economic model they consider appropriate without external pressure, the Russian ambassador said. Experts and diplomats from Russia and South Africa met on January the 25th at the Valdez Discussion Club in the Russian capital to discuss ways to strengthen ties in the new geopolitical context. During the meeting, Oleg Azarov, ambassador at large of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and head of the Secretariat of the Russian Africa Partnership Forum, said that alternative currencies to the dollar will be used to maintain the pace of trade relations between Russia and Africa. We already know very well which currency we will not use in our relations with Africa. It is the dollar. Do you see? There's a movement now. Gaddafi lost his life for that.
Saddam
Mugabe was
Hussein.
overthrown for that.
Saddam
Hussein
lost his life for doing what they are doing now. But everybody is against it. I mean, you can't go and kill the world. Whoever don't want the dollar, we're going to kill you. And come to find out it's everybody. We tell you once again, if there's a country that got some gold, oil, cobalt, some natural resources, now what you going to do? Are you going to take the country with no natural resources or somebody that can give you gold for it? Gold has always been money. Always. Since ancient days, gold is money.
It's pillaging Africa under the guise of fighting terror is that, and Mr. Garden himself said it, it's because they need the resources and the minerals in Africa to maintain the garden. You understand? So they will they don't think of African life as anything. They don't think of Ukrainian life as anything. They don't think of Russian life as anything. They don't think of Latin American lives as anything. The only thing that matters is America in the garden.
now you think of it like this, right? If the garden is so great, then why you ain't got no natural resources up under your feet? That's what you need to think of. If the garden is so great and so indispensable and exceptional, they don't have no natural resources up underneath their feet. It seems to me that the people that got all the gold, the cobalt, the zinc, the grain, all of that, those are the insubstantial. Yeah, those are the places with the insubstantial, the exceptional places. And the garden has nothing but a lot of paper money.
Yeah. Now let me go to the chat again. Cece says that Ukraine, we knew that, and they're begging the West, but the West can't match Russia's industrial complex. And if they can't match Russia, the whole Western world can't match Russia's Western military industrial complex. And if they can't match Russia's, how in the world do they believe that they can match China's? Next one says, Midnight Caller says, Macron went on stage to announce that the age of retirement will increase. On his arm, he had a watch worth $80,000 When he realized it, he stuck his hand under the table to remove it in a panic. Well, because in their eyes, you serfs. In their eyes, you beneath them. In their eyes, you are not worthy. What is it? Let them eat cake. Yeah. Go ahead, Rashid. I know you want to say something about that.
Isn't he a Rothschild banker? Isn't he a Rothschild banker?
Yeah.
Right?
Boom.
Well, he don't see little people. Like you say, let him eat cake. He's nothing. You're less than a length to me. And he selected every last Western leader is selected.
Yeah.
They put him up in charge. They tell him, this is your leader over here. Yeah, and get a bunch of suckers over here. Yeah. What a Barnum, a Bailey say? A sucker born every minute and two to take it. And there's a whole lot of suckers out there. Right? A whole lot of suckers who will do whatever they tell them to do. Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Two sides of the same coin. Heads is a quarter and tails is a quarter, right?
Yeah.
No matter what it is, it's still a quarter. And that's what they do. They play on your weakness and your naivetes where they can push this stuff on you and actually make you think you're getting something different. I own the Republicans. I own the Democrats. So how are you going to get anything different than what I tell you to do?
I want to play a clip. I didn't have it uploaded, but you said something that sparked my thought. And that's why I love having you. We feed off each other. But about the selection of all these leaders, I'm going to play something that occurred on our show when we interviewed Scott Ritter. Okay, and tell me whether or not you can hear it or not. I'm going to try my best to have it where you can hear it. So everybody, hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do this. Here it is. Let's see if we can turn this volume up and see if you can hear it when it starts.
They had reached down and they had selected me. I didn't want to run for office. I didn't express. They had selected me, and I was supposed to come in and pay the let them write the checks. It was already recorded all the local. I was going to come in uncontested primary, run again in a strong Republican stronghold against there nobody the Democrats could put up to counter me, and I would become a Republican congressman. I'd be sent there, and then because of my name, I'd be put on all the right committees, and I would be the guy that would be on TV talking, explaining this stuff to America.
I'm pausing for a minute. Could you all hear that? Rashid, could you hear it? Okay, I want to make sure because I don't just want it to be dead air, and I'm thinking that you can hear it. Now, I'm going to start that over again. It's a short clip. It's from our show. It's about 3 minutes. I want you to hear exactly what Scott Ritter told me personally on this show, okay, about being elected and being selected, okay? So here we go again. Here we go. This is a clip, so I want you to pay close attention. Right here. Says when referring to the presidents, they all answer to a higher power. They are elected, not elected. I normally say that because I believe that Obama was a Manchurian candidate. This guy served out his first term as a senator. I mean, he came out of nowhere. Laws that were instituted. So I believe that, all of them answer to that hand behind the scene. What say you about that? Because it seems like regardless of whether it's a black president, a white president, or a Republican or a Democrat, they may slightly differ, but most of the policies remain the same.
Yeah. Again, I'll give you a personal story here just to explain why I'm going to say what I say. When I resigned from being the weapons inspector with the United Nations, I had a very high profile. I testified for the Senate, and I was on TV, and so people were like, my name was known. So I get a phone call from a guy named Jack Kemp, and you might recognize that name. Former quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, went on to be a senator, and then the Secretary for Housing and Urban Development under Ronald Reagan. So he was a conservative Republican who had some innovative ideas about how to fix the urban problem in America, which we know what that's slang for. So a white guy fixing a black problem. But anyways, I get a call from Jack Kemp, and he says, I want you to come to a meeting. And I said, well, what kind of meeting do you want me to come to? I said, I just want you to meet some people. I said, okay, I'll come. money people. Now, so you want to talk about who selects? I was amongst those who selected. I had been selected. They had selected me, and they were going to bring me in. They were going to anoint me and make me a United States congressman. I'm telling you right now, had I played their game, I'd probably be Senator Scott Ritter right now. Fortunately, I didn't want to play the game, but I mean, that was it. They had reached down and they had selected me. I didn't want to run for office. I didn't express. They had selected me, and I was supposed to come in and play the game. And had I just kept my mouth shut, let them write the checks, it was a straight shot. They picked the district that I was going to run into. They'd already coordinated with all the local Republican people. I was going to come in, uncontested primary, run and get in a strong Republican stronghold against, there would be nobody the Democrats could put up to counter me, and I would become a Republican congressman. I'd be sent there, and then because of my name, I'd be put on all the right committees, and I would be the guy that would be on TV talking, explaining this stuff to America. But it's not me explaining anything. It's me reading the script of the powers that be who have selected me to come in and do their bidding. Unfortunately, I made them ask me 2 questions.
So that goes to the heart of what you were saying about selected, not elected. He was telling you the process of what to become a powerful Republican senator. All right.
Same thing with the Democrat.
Making this stuff up.
Same thing with the Democrat senator.
Oh, he said
it's no difference. They no difference. They don't change their policies, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. They never change their policy. It's always war, 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 and more war. Go 10,000 miles away from your home, murder up people, bomb, and steal all their natural resources, and bring it to you back to your home like Santa Claus did. That's where they got that deal about Santa Claus. Santa Claus went and stole from other countries and brought the gifts back to his country. Nimrod in the Bible was Santa Claus. He was a thief. Saint Nick is a thief. He'd go to India, Africa, Afghanistan, steal all their natural resources and bring it back to his people.
You know,
he do the same thing that his father did several thousand years ago.
And so, and for anybody to have any faith in the system, and you see the system continue to churn out these leaders that are subservient to forces behind the scene, it's madness. But do something to Einstein, whether they say doing this over again and expecting results, people, the Western world believes that they and it's the difference in reality, doing the sealing their fate with the fall of America and the collapse of the Western world. Now, we want to thank you all for joining us on this episode. We said it'll be short and it'll be brief. I'm glad to see Rashid feeling a lot better. He was really under the weather. For someone who had hit me up in my emails, that he said that they may want to help or donate. I put that up on screen for you. It's the Cash App and the Buy Me a Coffee thing. We usually don't put that up, but I guess they heard me say what YouTube did to us and would not monetize the channel at this moment. All right. So I'll put that up there for you all. Listen, we'd like to thank you all for joining us. Rashid, in closing, what have you to say?
Well, if the channel is being hit by YouTube and all the rest of them, I guess we're saying something that the mainstream media don't like. Remember what we say, truth hurts the guilty. And if you're guilty, you don't want to hear what we got to say.
Well, on that note, hey, we love you. We might do another off the cuff tomorrow. Just look for us. We don't know what time it'll be because my schedule is messed up tomorrow, so I don't really know. But be looking out for us. We love you. If you love the truth, but God will always love you best. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, righteous. And as we go out, So I gotta say it. Mama, your baby boy loves you.